Thank you, Reverend Jeff.
My goodness, Omega Ray, good morning to you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Kind of makes me feel like I'm home, for which I am very grateful. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this soggy April 5th. The beautiful rain this morning is reminding me that regardless of all else, April showers will indeed bring May flowers. And spring is underway. Life is irrepressible, you see, and ultimately nothing can stand before it. And so on this unusual Sunday, I think it's important that we infuse beauty and good of 1,000 different kinds into our equation at every opportunity. And so in honor of National Poetry Month, Robert Leeds reminded me that it's National Poetry Month because, well, again, no matter what's going on, we need creativity and beauty and art. Something critical is added to the equation and to our considerations by these things. It helps to keep us balanced and healthy and well. And so I want to share with you a part. It's not the complete poem, but it's a piece of it that our Constance Chapman turned me on to this last week. And I like it a lot. Mary Oliver, one of my faves. This is called Such Singing in the Wild Branches. And it goes like this. It was spring, and I finally heard him among the first leaves. First, I stood still and thought of nothing. Then I began to listen. Then I was filled with gladness. Such soft and solemn and perfect music doesn't last for more than a few moments. It's one of those magical places wise people like to talk about. Is it spring? Is it morning? Are there trees near you, and does your soul need comforting? Quick then, open the door and fly on your heavy feet. The song may already be drifting away. I share that with you because amidst the clamor of the past few weeks, there has begun to emerge, if you listen carefully, a still small voice. Dylan spoke to it in our readings. The Talmud actually reminds us every blade of grass has its angel that bends over it and whispers, grow, grow. This is, I believe, what Mary Oliver was speaking to. It's that soft and solemn and perfect music. Doesn't last for more than a few moments. It's time for us to pay attention in this exceptional season. I hear folks talking about, or beginning to talk about, getting back to normal. And honestly, I'm rethinking that. I've been giving that serious consideration this week. I mean, I understand that what we're saying is that we miss the familiar. We find comfort in the familiar, and that's normal and natural. And what an amazing time this is, and an amazing opportunity. Once again, Whitman shows up and reminds me, what if we were to reconsider all that we've been told and dismiss what insults are sold during this time? I, for one, don't want to go back. We can't go back anyway. The river of life only flows in one direction. So what if we were to ask ourselves better questions again? Better questions like what do I want to be in the world when we reemerge? And can I get creative and start to be that now during this time? This is what Melody Beattie calls an in-between time. It's a little disorienting, but highly creative. can I practice living in alignment with my heart and soul desires during this once in a lifetime window of opportunity? Think about it. You can be an artist, a philanthropist. Speaking of which, don't forget the donate button on the homepage, www.oaklandcsl.org. We do still have bills to pay and appreciate your financial support. I thought about a project that I took on at one time, and I decided to try this philanthropy business, but I didn't have a lot of money. And so I set aside $20 and I decided to give $1 to 20 different causes. And I felt great. I don't know if anybody else felt great, but I felt great by the time I got done. You can be a writer, you can be a victim. Remember our hip pocket affirmation, one of our hip pocket affirmations: I am a place where the good of God shows up in the world. So important now. I am a place where the good of God shows up in the world. Or I'm a victim of circumstance, powerless to influence the direction of my life. But see, we know different now. We know better. We can no longer claim ignorance nor powerlessness. And here's the other bit of news: whatever you choose, plus or minus, both are highly charged, powerful attractors. Pick a position, optimist or pessimist, for or against, and the universe will immediately respond with a preponderance of evidence that you are right. The universe says yes. This is where the rubber meets the road, ladies and gentlemen. It's no longer some far off date and time and place when we get to apply our faith and belief. Now is the time. And if you have not yet proven the power of your own mind and heart to yourself, isn't the month of April a wonderful time to experiment? What else would you rather do? We have a little time on our hands. We could complain. We could become fully ensconced in a place of lack and of fear. We can choose that. Free will and choice are still completely in play. But if there's other choices, if there are better choices that will result in a greater personal and global wellness, why would we not choose those? I'm not denying or avoiding or repressing in any way that many folks are experiencing serious hardship, suffering, even death. And there will be more. Let's take a breath. No, it's a lot. It's a big season. And concurrently, I'm watching as creativity continues to invite newness. A new season is on the horizon. Actually, it's underway. We're in the midst of it. We can't see the end of it. We can't see where it's taking us. We can't see what it's going to look like because it's never before existed. And so we get a little anxious because we don't know what it might look like. So we get to remember a few things. This, again, is where our spiritual practice comes into play. Not then, not at some far off place or far off time, but here and now, today. We get to remember that God is all there is, period, without exception. And yes, that means even this virus is somehow part of the greater whole, whether we can see it or not, whether we understand it or not, whether we like it or not. I see global changes have often happened as the result of global changes. Do you see what I mean? What's underway right now is a global shift. And so what if we were to ask ourselves, how do I want this to change me? In a new world order, if we could create something wonderful and kind and loving, what would my part be? How would I show up? perhaps differently than I have historically? What is the gift in this for me? What if we were to dedicate the month of April to sacred inquiry, to paying attention to that still small voice that the Bible speaks of, that the Talmud speaks of, that's within every person's mind and body and heart and soul? It doesn't mean we have to be anything special. We just have to pay attention. What if, and this is the second point that we need to bear in mind as we think about this, and that is that we are in fact co-creating a new world order right now with every single thing that we think and feel and do. Make no mistake, it begins with that, and it always has, and it always will. And you and I have been given primary responsibility on purpose, intentionally, for one person, ourselves. I've spoken to this before, and I'll speak to it again because it applies. It's so obvious in our circumstances that my work is my work. And as I do my work, I change things. This is what we get to bear in mind during this time. As I do my work, I change things. Repeat that in your mind and heart. As I do my work, I change things. And the work changes me. You see, every single time. And since we're all connected, and we're getting another lesson in that right now, are we not realizing just how interconnected we are? Transmitting, we're always transmitting something. I had the pleasure some years ago, probably, well, many years ago now, 12 or 15 years ago, working with a London-trained physician by the name of Robin Kelly on a book that he was writing at the time called The Human Antenna. In it, Robin describes, well, let me read you an excerpt. He writes, cells communicate using electrical fields. Our bones and ligaments are in fact semiconductors. This means that they can transmit both energy, like the power cord of your computer, and information, like the cable that goes to your internet. This information exchange can happen as fast as the speed of light. Here's the interesting sentence. Structures in each of our cells pick up and transmit signals from both inside and outside the body like tiny antennae. It's not new news. He just puts it in a different way that struck me again this week and begged the question, what am I transmitting today? What are you transmitting today? Is it peace, joy, kindness, patience, love, forgiveness, faith? Or is it something else? Here's the question. Is what I am thinking and saying and doing today in alignment with my vision for a new world order, a world that works for everyone? Remember, you can be anything you want, anything you choose in the month of April. No one can see you experimenting. You have nothing to lose. We're reinventing things. You see, one person at a time, because that's how global change happens. One person at a time. What is mine to be today? And what is my heart and soul desire for going ahead into something wonderful and new? That's our theme for April. And I thought about changing it. Our theme is bright beginnings. And I thought, wow, it's perfect. Bright beginnings. And I think that it's critically important at some point, any moment now, perhaps we begin to shift our attention. Yes, what is going on demands a lot of our focus and energy, and that's all well and good, but it's been a few weeks now, and we can, if we so choose, begin to think ahead, not too far, maybe just to April. How do you want to show up in the world next month? In the month of April, in the month of May? If you could show up in the month of May, however you chose, yes, you can. How would that be? You have the whole month of April to practice in the privacy of your own home. Imagine what's possible. Each person in the sound of my voice, a pebble in the pond, a human antenna broadcasting with every breath, with every beat of our heart. What am I contributing to the greater whole? We know we're connected. We've got physiological proof of just how connected we are. What does my heart want to contribute? That's another huge question. What does my heart want to contribute to the greater whole today? Oh God, that's a great question. You could start every morning with that. We have to start someplace, right? The only place we can start is where we are. Oops. Hope I lost my place because I got so excited. What does my heart want to contribute? Write it down, post it on your fridge. What does my heart want to contribute to the greater whole today? Dr. Holmes reminds us in a most interesting reading. Every time I listen to this, I hear it in a slightly different way. The big one for this month. We should keep this in mind, he says. The Spirit makes all things out of itself. A good reminder in itself, right? Everything comes into being without effort. And when we exert ourselves, we're not in accord with the creative spirit in the way in which it works. The impulse of the Spirit is to move. The impulse of the Spirit to move must be caused by a desire to express what it feels itself to be. Beauty, form, color, life, love, and power. Now here's the interesting sentence. All things that we find in the manifest universe are caused to spring into being through the Word, which we talk about often, because the Spirit wants to enjoy itself. I have never before seen nor heard of Dr. Holmes saying we're here to show God a good time. But there it is. All things that we find in the manifest universe are caused to spring into being through the Word, because the Spirit wants to enjoy itself. How does the Spirit want to enjoy itself through and as me today, through and as you today? Ladies and gentlemen, how long have we been praying for a global shift? And here we find ourselves in the midst of it, and we don't like it very much, I know. But here it is nonetheless. And so we can mourn how it showed up. And again, it's completely appropriate and mindful and to be careful and to mourn the suffering that's happening in our world as a result of this. And concurrently, we're ready for a global shift. We prayed it into being, and we're finding it inconvenient, to say the least, heartbreaking occasionally. But let's pause and be with that for just a second and get a little bit real. Global shift is liable to cause some discomfort. And again, we can complain all we want about that, but here are the cards we've been dealt every single time. Here are the cards we've been dealt. So how do we want to play them? And I'm telling you that every person is going to have to make that choice for themselves. But bear in mind that what you choose is a powerful attractor. You can be right, or you can be happy. Maybe you can be both. When we remember that God is all there is, period, without exception. I'm reminded of that other saying, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? Right now, I'll take happy over right. Maybe that's part of what these big events do. They help us to clarify things, to prioritize things, don't they? Are you clear yet on what's really important to you? It's another great practice for the month of April. Put a sheet of blank 8.5 by 11 paper on your fridge and title it, "What's really, really important to me is." What's really, really important to my heart is. And you will get the clarity that you're asking for. My invitation to you is not to filter whatever shows up in this mystical, magical month of April that we are on the front end of. If you say yes to this invitation to what could be a once-in-a-lifetime thing, a once-in-a-lifetime micro season, that is April, just notice and write things down. Dare to be surprised, even delighted. I know it can feel counterintuitive at times like this, but today I dare to be surprised and delighted. It doesn't take anything away from the rest of my experience. Indeed, it doesn't take anything away from the heartache that I would not trade, because my heartache is commensurate with the degree that I love. See, my heart aches because I love the world so much. And when people suffer, my heart aches. There's nothing wrong with that, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And today, I dare to be surprised and delighted. As we reacquaint ourselves with our own hearts, now is the time. This is the season. To borrow a reading from next week from Dr. Holmes, he's looking at the life of Jesus, next week being April, so it's an appropriate consideration. He says, Jesus knew what we all must learn, that we cannot really have an attitude of dislike or hate or viciousness or lack without robbing ourselves of the healing power and comforting presence and the divine assurance that the universe itself rests on the shoulders of love. And then there is Anais Nin that's always sitting back in the bleachers of my mind. And the day came when the risk to remain tied in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to bloom. And the day has come. This is the 11th hour. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. We can try to go backwards into what has been, or we can lean into this, greater yet to be, to that still small voice. What is that still small voice inviting from you? What's your part? We find ourselves today at the front end of a spring season like no other that we've ever known, a season of global shift. And we're all participating in that, you see. We're all connected. We all participated in bringing it into being. And it's okay. It's hard. And there are certainly challenges and heartache. But I know that we are eternal beings here on this planet for a blink of an eye. And what do we want with our time here? I'll borrow from Mary Oliver again. It says, what do you want to do with your one wild and precious life? Boy, if now isn't the time to pause and ask ourselves again and again. I don't know when is. And I'll even add to that today, this season, this month. What do you want to do with your one wild and precious life now? What do you want to do with your one wild and precious life for the month of April, for the month of May? What do you want to be going forward? How do I dare to try this month? Do I dare to be surprised and delighted? It's a very good month for spiritual practice. As a reminder, we do have practitioners who are willing not only to pray with you, but some have offered complimentary 30-minute spiritual counseling and prayer sessions. I invite you to take a look and take advantage of that. That information is also on the homepage of our website, www.oaklandcsl.org. You can submit prayer requests. I guess the bottom line is I want to invite you to be connected. You don't have to go through this alone. We're a village, and it takes a village to raise not only children, but adults, especially in times like this. So I invite you to do that. I'm going to close today with the same poem that we opened with, because I love it. And every time I read it, it's different. I invite you to take a breath and just take this in. It was spring, and I finally heard him among the first leaves. First I stood still and thought of nothing. Then I began to listen. Then I was filled with gladness. Such soft and solemn and perfect music doesn't last for more than a few moments. It's one of those magical places wise people like to talk about. Is it spring? Is it morning? Are there trees near you, and does your soul need comforting? Quick then, open the door and fly on your heavy feet. The song may already be drifting away. Pay attention. Every blade of grass has an angel whispering, grow, grow. Let us pray. And I take that breath very mindfully and intentionally, for it reminds me that I am met. I am met by the breath of life, the presence of life that pours itself into mind and body and heart and soul. And in that pouring in, it withholds nothing of itself, all of the intelligence, all of the information, all of the guidance, all of the love, all of the nourishment that I seek and need meets me with every breath and every beat of my heart. It's from that place that I speak this word of blessing and of gratitude. First, blessing all of those who are in service to creating a world that works for everyone, essentially all of us that are participating in this recreation of the human experience, choosing very mindfully, very carefully, very heartfully what is mine to be, what is mine to contribute to this grand shift that is underway. I speak a word too of love and of compassion and of heartache. I acknowledge it. I own it. These are challenging times for many. And I know that there is enough love within the greatness, the allness of God. I don't tell people how big my problems are. I tell people how big my God is. I invite us to take another breath. And remember that we are accompanied, that even as we walk through our own experiences of the valley of the shadow, that we are accompanied, that we need only pause and take that single breath, and that still small voice reminds us, I'm a place where the good of God shows up in the world. It's the truth of who and what I am. It's the truth of who and what you are. We're okay. We're okay. And so grateful for being in such good company, grateful for remembering the truth of who and what I am. I can release this word to go before me, to accompany us, to light our way. Still small voice with every breath and every beat of our heart. I'm so grateful for the truth. I can release this, my word, into the law of mind, into the heart of God, where it has always been the truth. And the universe says yes and makes it so. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. Blessed be. Blessed be everyone. Have an amazing and